Mike, share with Namrata about leaving Scotland when you were 3 to you moved to Pakistan and
Yeah,
all the colors and warmer climate and then moving back.
yeah.
Share that story. That would be awesome.
Well, yeah, one of the big things for me was the temperature changes. Now, because I left when I was 3, I had asthma, but I loved Pakistan. I was in Lahore. Lahore's a beautiful city. And, you know, it was the smells, the spices, the curries, the just everything about it, the relentless activity and I loved that. I loved it. And then I got very ill with um what's the word? It's a it's a slightly milder form of typhoid. So I was laid up. I was sitting in the in front of the house in a bed with the frogs chorus at night and the little geckos wandering up and down and I loved it. And then I came back to Scotland and came back in winter. Well, we came through Egypt and my mother's family were staying in Egypt. She's Lebanese. And again, the kids diving into the Suez Canal, they'd ask you to throw a sixpence into the water and they'd dive down and collect it and bring it back up to the surface, you know. And they even said, throw in your wedding ring. I'll find it for you. And people did that. And so there was that kind of freedom of children to do daring things, no health and safety. And then going to Italy on the way back in Naples and seeing all these exquisite little jewelry shops, with dancing ballerinas on a sort of turntable, with the lights glittering, and then eating al fresco Italian, with an opera singer singing. And it was just all these sensory experiences. And I come back to Scotland and it was midwinter and it was freezing. And I thought they were all superhumans because they just carried on running about, and I was stood, and of course, because I was standing, my feet would become like blocks of ice. And the settlement period was terrible. And at the same time, you're trying to learn, it's a totally different experience from kindergarten in Pakistan, where, I could speak rudimentary Urdu and uh, and I got on well with all the kids there. There was no white man, nothing like that. So I've got very fond memories of Pakistan, and the culture change was just too much for me as at the age of 6.5.
Yeah,
That was a
that's
different,
that's huge. That's a very distinct
yeah,
culture, very distinct ways of like yeah, the
yeah,
education system is quite different, I can
oh,
imagine.
totally different, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did develop very strong sensory experiences, smells, sights, sounds, tastes. And, I always say to people when I'm talking to them, try some different food. This weekend, go and try something you've never tasted before. And, people do and they say it's amazing. We've always seen it, but we've always thought, I don't know about that. I don't think I'd like that. You see, how can you not think you'd like a taste? Really? So kind of breaks people through a barrier. This
Yeah.
barrier to I can't eat that, I can't eat Indian food, I can't. Of course, the most popular food in Britain is Indian food. I don't know if you know that, but
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and they've developed their own curry as well in Birmingham. They've developed the Balti, and in Scotland, tikka masala became the big
Oh yeah.
uh, ticket.
I recently found out butter chicken's actually like created originally in the UK. Like I don't know which part, but yeah, it's not an Indian dish. It's actually
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yes, it's an adaptation.
In, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you we've got haggis bacora in Scotland.
I don't know what that
Let's
is
hope she
because
doesn't know what that
it's
is.
probably not Indian, so
You don't want to.
Haggis is Scotland's national dish. Um, but it's become a bit of a joke because we tell the English it's an animal and we have to go and catch them. But it's basically a sheep's. It's wrapped and
Mm,
it's kind of sheep's stomach, but it's all spiced up with pepper, with you know, quite hot pepper and stuff. And
mhm.
they've now got the Indians are very resourceful because they say, "Ah, give us the haggis, we'll create a pakora." It's just great, and it's beautiful, you
Yeah.
know. So that I love this fusion, but that didn't exist when I was a child, and people's taste buds are stretching, but it's taken a long time because you'd hear people saying, I can't eat foreign food. You think, how stupid is that? Every food that's not from Britain is the enemy. I mean, it was like that, particularly in England. Yeah.
We
The
don't have
Scots,
bitter here in the US. Bitter is not here.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's so good for your brain to have bitter and that switch. Yeah.
yeah, of course it is. Yeah, because you're sparking all the time different parts of your senses, and I do think life is a sensory experience. You when I look back, I remember sights and smells and sounds. And being in St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome, wow, extraordinary. The ceiling, this Michelangelo stuff, absolutely breathtaking. You're small. I was 6. And yeah, you see all of that before the age of 6, before the age of 6.5, and you think, wow, you
Mm.
know,
I feel like
well,
these are
obviously,
things I feel like these are things you just absorb even like you said with your senses. You don't understand it. You're too young to understand it.
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
trying to make sense of it. You're like there's no
yeah,
logic attached, nothing. You just absorb it using your
exactly.
senses and it's more and then when you grow up and then you realize, okay, this is what I
Yeah,
experienced growing up and that's what happened with me too. Like you become more of a like yeah, your personality just changes. Like you're more open to then trying different kinds of foods from all kinds of
absolutely.
places. And I'm so grateful to also have experienced all of this
Yeah.
to then now become who I am now. Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm sure my father was saying, that was painted by Michelangelo in whichever century, but I wasn't listening to that. I was just looking at it in wonder. You know,
mm,
doesn't matter who painted it, really, at 6.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and you will find out later because you will go, who painted that amazing painting? Because it's just beyond belief that someone could get up that high and. So you're right, and that's why I think schools should have more experiences so that you can settle out your passion. Because a child with passion will learn everything that's needed, you know?
Yeah, they teach
Um,
themselves really quite well. I've been in the homeschool, um,
yeah,
whatever you call it, homeschool community. Yeah, and it's amazing. The unschooling homeschool community